I met him in high school, and it was my senior year. That's when the grooming started.
When you're that young and you're taught to trust these people, that they are the man of God, that you don't question them.
For nearly 2 decades, the Catholic Church has been under fire from the public, its congregants, and survivors groups as the Church continues to grapple with fallout from the massive clergy sex abuse scandal that first came to light in Boston in 2002. In the 17 years since the scandal became public, the Catholic Church has settled with thousands of victims and pledged transparency as dioceses and archdioceses across the country released lists of credibly accused clergy members. Then came the explosive Pennsylvania grand jury report in August 2018, which revealed 301 priests, many of whom had never before been publicly named, who abused 1,000 children.
It served a legal purpose that church officials manipulated for their advantage. The longer they covered it up, the less chance law enforcement could prosecute these predators because the statute of limitations would run. As a direct consequence of the systematic cover-up by senior church officials, almost every instance of child sexual abuse we found is too old to be prosecuted.
After this, another question emerged. Whatever happened to all these men who the Church acknowledges as abusers? Is anyone tracking their whereabouts? Or are they living without oversight, next door to families and children who are unaware of their past? A months-long USA Today Network investigation tracked down nearly 700 last-known addresses of former priests who have been accused of abuse. 38 network reporters across the country knocked on doors and spoke to those accused priests, plus their neighbors, employers, and victims. What we found is that most of these men were never charged in criminal court because of expired statutes of limitation in their respective states, which meant the priests were able to move on with their lives while often their tormented victims continued to search for justice. This story comes at a critical time, as state lawmakers across the country are working to extend both criminal and civil statutes of limitation, pushing for victims to have their day in court. For Pennsylvania lawmaker Mark Rossi, the fight is personal.
And I can still remember him opening up, the first time he opened up that cabinet to pull out his Polaroid camera, there was just hundreds of pictures of young boys in there and their penises and just exposed.
Like most victims, it took Rossi decades to come forward.
And I tell people, put yourself in my position as a 13-year-old boy in that shower getting raped. Do you think I knew what a statute of limitation was, civilly or criminally?
Many victims who spoke with the USA Today Network told stories of priests who built trust before the ultimate betrayal. That's how it was for Mary McHale, a Pennsylvania resident who still lives in fear of running into her abuser on the street.
I remember going in his room, and he went in, I followed him, and he shut the door and he locked the door, and that's when I really knew, okay, this isn't right.
For years, McHale told no one of what happened that night in the priest's bedroom. But when another woman came forward years later to say she'd also been abused, McHale finally found the courage to speak up.
I feel very strongly that he would have continued to do what he did, because he was reported after me, and he still went away he still continued for how many years after that. He said that he'll never get caught because he's too smart. And I have to say, he's right so far, because he's been protected by the richest institution.
For survivors like McHale, there's no legal recourse because Pennsylvania hasn't passed statute of limitation reform, despite multiple efforts by Rossi and others. But in other states, that reform is taking place, which advocates say is crucial as victims search for justice. Additionally, 22 state attorneys general are formally investigating the Catholic Church.
If they don't change, they will cease to exist, just like other institutions have in the past.
Rossi, McHale, and other survivors who spoke with the USA Today Network remain hopeful that change and justice are possible. The key is helping the public understand not only what victims went through, but that many of these alleged abusers continue to move through the world without consequence.
Is the truth going to heal us? I don't know. But I hope it's a start. People see this, they see me as a representative, but if you could flip me inside and out, you would see how dark and crumbled and destroyed I am. So I can't do anything to save myself anymore, but I'm gonna be damn sure I'm gonna protect that kid in the future to make sure that never happens to little Mark ever again.